Hey there, welcome back to the table. We're going to get started here with playing this game. First step is always the most difficult one, which of course is we have to select our characters, we have to buy our starting equipment. So there's a little bit of, I don't know what's the right word. I have to go through a period of a little bit of lag. And I need to pause real quick. I'm missing a piece. Okay, piece found. So we have a mini disaster, well, let's just say maybe setback. Disaster might be a little too far. I think people who own board games have had various levels of quality issues when they've received their game, and I am no exception here. So there are 6 starting classes in the game, and I can only show you 5 of them because, as you can see here, I got 2 copies of the same character. So the character that I'm missing is called Geminate, and the rulebook shows all the characters, which is a really nice little introduction to them. So this one here, Geminate, with that symbol, is missing. Now I do have the miniatures for it. There are 2 miniatures, in fact, for him. But the character class envelope, which looks like this. So every character class is in its own envelope for those of you that aren't familiar with the game. And of course they have a class symbol, so you don't know exactly what that class is. And then they put this little picture on it, so if there's one missing, even though it's a secret what it is, you could still figure out, like, when you receive your game if you're missing pieces. It's a brilliant thing. I think the designer does so many things so well with this game. It's why I love Gloomhaven. It's why I hope to love this, right? Obviously, he's trying very hard to make it so I don't love it by not sending me my pieces. But we received this one, which I think is called the Bone Shaper, and we received 2 of them. And I did open both of them to just verify that did I really get 2 of the same thing, and absolutely darn tootin' I did. So that's extremely unfortunate. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with a second copy of the same character. Maybe I'll let my dog chew on it as a toy. I don't know. But in our case, we are now down to 5 classes. So it's these 5, and we get to select 4. So yes, I am playing solitaire, and yes, I am going to solitaire 4 characters. And no, this is the only way you're supposed to play this game, as far as I'm concerned. That whole nonsense of playing with less characters, that's for people who play Monopoly and just want to give this game a try. So, here we go. We have 6 characters to choose from, and these ones are high complexity. So I actually really did want to start Geminate. It's an insect swarm with 2 separate forms. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to try a high complex character on their very first try? So then I was like, well, I don't like this guy. Like, he just doesn't look cool. But then I opened him up and I looked at some of his skills and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's great. And then it's like, well, who wants a bone shaper? And then I opened it up and I looked at his skills and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's great. I did this with all of them except for one, and that was the Deathwalker. So we're not going to do the Deathwalker. So, and watch this one end up being my favorite class in the game. That's always how it goes. Like, the one I have first impression on is never the right one. I actually have issues with this one. I'm concerned. I'm choosing this one because it's the only high complexity one that's available to me. Obviously, the other one was available, but I don't have it didn't get shipped to me. Out of all of them, this one seems like the most awesome, and actually, the Bone Shaper seems pretty great. And then I was thinking, I don't want this one. I mean, who wants a unga unga barbecue? But this one actually looks really cool too. So, like, I got really excited about these 3, and then it was just a choice between this one and the Deathwalker. And this was the only high complexity one, so I went for the high complexity. I was like, okay, let's try something that seems to be pretty hard. Okay, so we're gonna have to open all these up, and I promise I will pause the video and get these things set up for you um, as we go. But I wanted to go through real quick and just show what's inside of these things. So when you open these up, and you always have to be careful because they can slip out the bottom. Pieces can. So what you're going to get is you're going to get cards. And this game is very much a deck construction type of game. The cards are going to be your lifeblood in how to play the game. And out of all the things to look at in the cards, all you need to know for now is that number 1 right there. That means level 1 character. And so there should be like, well, there's going to be as many level 1 cards as what's listed here, 12. So the Bone Shaper has a hand size of 12. So there should be 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Exactly. 12 level 1 cards. And then there's 3 X cards, which are, I don't know what's the best way. They're alternative cards. So you can swap these out with any of the level 1 cards and then make your deck. So these could be situationally good. These could be always good. It's just that these suit your playstyle. They always throw in alternative cards. So what we do is we're going to build, you have to build a hand of whatever's written here. Like some guys are only going to have 8 written there, but this one has 12. And so you're going to have a 12 card deck. You could ignore the X's and just go with the 12 level 1s. It's up to you. There's a lot going on. I'm going to reserve that decision until I get a chance to look at all the cards and sort it out. But basically, that's it. Now, when we start playing, the big thing to understand is that this number here is how soon you go. The lower the number, the quickest. There's always a top action and a bottom action. And if you've played Gloomhaven, the only thing that you're going to notice that changed is symbology. Like the symbology, he got rid of English words and tried to move more to symbols. So this is like, damage to self right here. This is the same symbols as before, but just more condensed. He uses the foot now instead of move, and this now, so there's a lot of, actually, you got 3 copies of similar looking cards, and yeah, so he's trying to move more towards symbols, and there's still words sometimes if he can't avoid it, but it's supposedly the explanation is it's to help with globalization of the game. So translating it into different languages, stuff like that. Okay, so that's that. Now the rest of the cards are for when they go to level 2, level 3, level 4, and you'll notice there's only 2 of each. And it gets even worse. When they level up to level 2, you pick only one of the 2. You don't get to pick the other. Now, when you level up to level 3, that level 2 card you didn't pick is in the pool. But you're still only picking one. Every time you level up, you only pick one card. And then at level 4, you can maybe pick that one. And then now you're picking one of those, And so it keeps going just like that. And these cards, of course, come later and as you level up. Now, one thing about Gloomhaven that was weird for me is that these leveled up cards are never necessarily more powerful. They're different, and sometimes they're more powerful. The real power in a character is in their perks, and I didn't even talk about their player board very much, but they have a perk list here, and basically when you get 3 checkboxes here, you get to pick a perk. And this is, to me, what makes the character more powerful. The cards are only mediocre at being more powerful. They're just cards. This part here is where your character really starts to shine. And your choices of perks is going to be a big difference maker. So yeah, there's... Now, another thing that's different from Gloomhaven that I noticed is he actually has perks now, the designer, I'm referring to him as he, that are like abilities. Like you actually get abilities now. Before, the perks used to just modify your combat deck and not much else. And now you're actually going to be able to, like once every scenario, when a character ally would become exhausted, you may suffer 2 damage to reduce their hit point value to 1 instead. So you could like protect. Um, Basically, this Bone Shaper is going to summon a whole bunch of, skeletons and stuff, and you can try to save them, etc., etc. Okay, the class notes are helpful. I've never played before, but I can already tell you this explains a lot, so don't ignore it. This is really good because he's actually giving you advice, which is good. And then this down here just tells you how many hit points you have. So you're going to get one of these dials where you got a level 1 character. So a level 1 character is going to have 6 hit points. And then this is experience points, so obviously you're starting the game with the big whopping 0. So every character is going to have one of those dials, and then as you level up like this, then you get, these things too. Now, another thing that I didn't pay as much attention to, but when you're dealing with events, this character is arcane, educated, and intimidating. So those are character attributes that may, when you draw event cards, you may have certain options available to you if you have one of those 3 characteristics. So this again gets to why having 4 characters in your party is better than 3, 2, or 2. I was going to say 1, but you can't have 1. At least not without a variant. So, yeah, now you have this as well. Everybody starts with a combat deck, which is distributed exactly the same between you and the monsters. You're going to have a doubler, you're going to have a big fat nothing burger, you have 1 - 2, you're going to have 1 + 2 somewhere in here, and there it is. And then you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 -1s, and it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 +1s, and then a whole bunch of zeros. Looks like 6 of them. It is a completely neutral deck. For every positive card you have in this deck, there's a negative. Now, when you start getting your perks, you're going to be able to do things like remove this and replace it with something else or whatever. And that's what makes your deck a little bit more powerful and custom. But at the beginning of the game, ourselves, including the monsters, all have the exact same distribution. So, what they give you is there's this card, this deck here, which is really, these are, what's the right word? These are, when you choose certain perks, you're going to be able to add this to your combat deck. So these are specific to that class, and you can see the little symbol there. So if you ever have to put them away later, you know what class it belongs to. And then this one, these are also combat cards, but you get to kill the attacking summon to instead add +4. So the summon, or skeleton or whatever, if it's doing the attacking, you can add +4 to the attack, etc. So some really cool stuff. And then there's a heal, and so forth. And then these are mana things. And then lastly, this is what I was talking about. You get abilities now. So if you unlock this perk, you actually have that ability. And this is just a reminder of what your ability is. So very, very cool. My impression so far, and I haven't played a single scenario yet, is that everything I've read and seen, I'm really impressed with how the designer has taken Gloomhaven, which was a great game, and made it a little bit better. Is it a lot better? I don't know. I need to play. But the touches here are, to me, they're excellent. And so, and I'm not gushing over the game. I just, I really think they are excellent. And so, you know, I'm upset I didn't get all my character classes. I mean, how hard is it to make sure you have one of each? I don't know, but apparently somebody screwed up. So, I did watch a video where somebody went on a rant about this game, and at first I was laughing at him and thinking, oh boy, you know, total baby drama mama. But then I ended up agreeing with him, and that rant was here. This little thing that we went through in the last video basically explains how to set up your game. And apparently he paid for the wooden storage tokens, and he's got another video rant where it took him 8 hours to assemble his storage. This took me 30 seconds to do. And by the way, this cost less than what he paid for his wooden storage tokens. So, anyways, as you go through this, it's talking about how to, like, where to put every component and all that stuff. And in the middle of it, it says, shuffle the first 20 cards of each event deck. Well, the thing that he noticed is that this is nowhere in the actual rulebook. It's here, but it's not in the rulebook. And then there was, like, I think, yeah, right here you get the first 4 cards of the building deck. But I noticed that it didn't say what are the first 4 cards. But that is in the rulebook. I actually did find it, by the way. That's in the rulebook. Here, shuffle the challenges. Here's the blueprints that are available. And so some of this information is missing from the rulebook, and it's only here. And he couldn't figure it out, and he was pulling out his hair. And anyways, it made me laugh a little. But at the same time, I do understand. You should never put rules in a setup thing, or how to assemble your components thing. ISS Vanguard did the same thing, and they did it with This War of Mine. They put rules in all these obscure places. Like, and I don't mean to pick on another game at the moment, but I am. ISS Vanguard, for example, I'll be like, well, can I save my energy until the next time? And I'm like, yeah, I don't see anything in the rules that says I can't. Well, then it's actually in the ship book. The ship book has its own set of rules, which is separate from the rule book. And that to me is extremely annoying. I know that they're trying to, like, streamline things and put the rules where they matter, but when you're trying to look up something from a reference perspective, if there's not an index that says, hey, go to the ship book to look up rules about energy, I'm not going to know that I need to look in the ship book for it. And it was something that really drove me nuts about Vanguard. Vanguard is a fantastic game, by the way, but it is not perfect. And that is one of the huge flaws with it. It is so easy to miss things because the rules are scattered. And so that's the same complaint with this. I would have to say, though, that those rules are minimal compared to what Vanguard is. This is like, nothing compared to what Vanguard does. But it did make me laugh, and I do understand his point. Last thing with this is that these are standees for summons. So apparently I get to summon 3 skeletons, and I can summon a couple other things. And then I have little tokens here that are going to represent my character, so I can put this on something to show that that's mine. This is, of course, used for initiative. And then this is a standee for my actual character. So we're allowed to use a standee, and then they also provide for us a miniature. It comes in a box that looks like this, and I've never opened this, so I don't even know what the miniature looks like. So there we go. So you can use a standee, or you can use that. I'm always torn because standees are nice and colored. I do understand why people like them, but that miniature is rocking. So obviously the perfect thing is a painted miniature, but I'm not that talented. So anyways, there you go. So I got to do this for every character. I don't have to go through painstaking detailed explanation for you. But when you're choosing your character, if you're not going to just do, hey, this one just looks cool, read the level 1 cards. The perks are really the thing to hone in on, if you ask me. And it is nice to look at, like, what are the upper level cards like, but I don't pay too much attention to that. To me, it's about the perks. The perks are what makes the character. Okay, so I am choosing this Bone Shaper. It is not necessarily going to be my favorite character, at least my first impression, but I do think it is going to be cool. And one thing that if you watched my Gloomhaven playthrough, I think I proved it quite effectively. I am a big fan of summoned creatures. I am very good at handling summoned creatures. I use them very effectively, and I rumple stomp even the most tough missions with summoned creatures. This is not quite the same as using the summoner or the rat and bear or the orchid guy. who can, mark targets. But it's the closest I can find to a summoner in the early game, so I took it. Now, with that being said, there is an interesting thing in the rulebook. You can choose any character class from Gloomhaven you want, and they transfer to this game. And vice versa. You can take any of these characters and play it in Gloomhaven. So it is an option. You can actually, and so I actually got out my Gloomhaven copy right there, because also the market that's available for purchasing items, you can actually get some items from the Gloomhaven game and add it to the market here. But he's very specific. It's right here. So we're going to get 30 starting gold for each character, and then there's specific items from Gloomhaven we can import in. I did look at them, and funny enough, they're not the best items that Gloomhaven has. They weren't the ones that I like to start the game with. Like the goggles were amazing. There's certain things that were over there that are just very powerful, but that's not the case here. And so of the items that we can do, here they are. We got the heater shield, which I'll let you read what it says, but basically you can gain a shield and basically block an attack. So it's good shield. We got the leather armor, which gives an attacker disadvantage. We have the warden's robes, which lets one of your summons suffer damage from an attack. That summon gains 2 shield instead. And we start the game with $30, and since this one has summons, I'm going to spend all $30 on the warden's robe for the bone crusher or whatever it's called. The initial money that you start the game with is use it or lose it. So I have to spend all 30 here, and whatever I don't spend, I don't get to keep. So don't be stingy. Just buy something. So I am going to get the warden's robe. I think it's an expensive item, but I think it's perfect for a character like that. Now I'm going to check. What did they tell me to get? They told me to get the boots of speed. Totally disagree. The boots of speed are nonsense. The boots of speed is during initiative, you can choose to increase or decrease it by 10. If you wanted to go faster or slower, then you should have just played a card that goes faster or slower. I totally get it that you can wait to see what the enemy does, but boots of speed is just mitigating your ability to suck at this game. That's all. So there you go. There's my unfettered opinion on it. Okay, so we got that one. We got this character, which actually I find to be fascinating. I think it's actually going to be difficult to play. It is marked as easy, though, by him, by the designer. I don't know. I mean, I looked at it and I was like, geez, this looks hard. But, so the banner character is an interesting one where, first of all, it's called the banner spear. And so it uses, see this blue? An ally has to be standing there, and then you have to be standing there in order to do that strike. So if you're standing next to that ally, you can hit all 3 targets. So you can hit massive number of targets, but you have to have an ally standing somewhere relative to you. And there's some of these cards, they get insane. So the reason why I think this is going to be hard is getting your allies to sit exactly where you want them to. So here, the enemy has to be there, the ally there, and then you there. Now you can imagine it rotated any way you want, but as long as you meet that formation, then you get to, you'll do 3 damage and disarm them, which is pretty powerful. Very powerful, but hard to set up, right? Then look at this one. You're standing next to them, and then bing, 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 3 of them. And there's some crazier ones, like this one. You're going to hit, 3 of them, but they have to, the allies behind you. So you're standing here, the ally's behind you, and then you can hit all 3. But the ally has to be there. And so forth. So look at, crazy patterns, right? The thing that's hard is summons move according to their own AI. you don't get to move a summon exactly where you want to. So the whole ally thing gets wonky. So they're going to move. You're not going to have full control over where they go, and then you have to just make the best of wherever they're at. So you have to be like opportunistic, and the problem is that you play your cards before you find out what happens for their move. So I can see this really being a lot of hit and misses. That's why I think this is going to be a difficult class to play, but I could be wrong, and we'll give it a go. So Banner Spear has all those interesting things, and then they have, I think, the best perks. They get rid of a lot of their negative cards and replace it with something else. Very, very good. Actually, they're just adding a lot of positive cards. This may not be the best perk one. I may be mistaken. But anyways, I actually was excited with this character. We'll find out exactly how good it is. And then we have this here. And you can see that he can summon some allies. But there's also banners, which I don't know if they count as allies or not. I wouldn't think they do it. They're not an actual person. But the banners do things too, which are pretty cool. Like enhance your attack abilities, stuff like that. So we have that, and again, we have $30. So what are we going to get? Well, this one would be nice to maybe have. So one of the things that comes to my mind is I want the wing shoes, because this gives you the ability to jump, and so that means you can go over difficult terrain. And the reason my mind is going here for this character is you saw that the ally has to be here, and you have to be exactly at that spot. Well, the only way you can get exactly to certain spots is if you can fly, which is what the wing shoes do. If you're trying to move through regular terrain, you could get blocked. It's like the spot's there, you want to get there, but you can't because, there's water or jagged rocks in the way. Well, this lets you jump over them. So to me, this is a no-brainer for a character that has to be positioned properly. You want to be able to move around. So that's $15 right there. And so then I'm looking at other $15 items, and the other one that jumps out as a perfect, well, there's two. We can get the shield, which will allow them to gain. So for one time in between each long rest, they can gain, block one attack or one damage. But the leather armor, there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to go with leather armor. If the other characters end up taking the leather armor, I might switch back to the shield, because there's only 2 leather armors available for purchase. Okay, so there is another one that's an interesting one called the Amulet of Life. That heals self. But again, it's just one time and it's just one heal. It's a little mediocre, but we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay. Next up, this is a pure melee class. We got a lot of melee classes in this game. That might be the one thing I'm doing improperly here. This one has a lot of timer things. So on the next 6 melee attacks, you get to add +2, and so you put a marker here every time you use it. And then once it's all used up, then the card gets destroyed. But this character has the ability to move things backwards. And you can see, move the character token on one of your persistent abilities backward 1 slot. So if this token was here, you could move it backwards 1. But the problem is this ability has to be used on another card. But there's multiple cards in here that do similar things. So very, very cool. The Drifter looks like this. Like I said, I wasn't real thrilled about the character, but once I started reading about the abilities to move the token backwards, I was like, wow, that's super cool. So I'm very excited about that, and we're going to go ahead and give it a try. Also, as far as perks go, you get rid of -1 cards 3 times, and then you get rid of the -2 cards. So all the negatives, except for a couple, are going to be removed from his deck. That is the sign and a hallmark of a great combat deck. So this guy will do really great as far as I'm concerned. It's a straightforward, and to me this is truly an easy type of character, but you have to understand how that little ticker moves and how to move it backwards. So it is a person who gets in and gets dirty. So there's a couple of things here. We could do the other leather armor, for example, and the shield. So that way there are no weapons. There's one weapon actually. There's the poison dagger. So the poison dagger it'll poison someone during an attack. It doesn't do extra damage though. Um, yeah, you know what? Let's try it. We'll try it. I don't know if it's the best combo, but we'll do it. And then this last one has me concerned because I think this one could benefit from a leather armor too. But this is the complex difficulty one. And the thing that this one does is you have these markers that you put here. And so at the beginning of each round, you have to decide if you're going to go fast or slow. And if you go slow, you get to add a marker on. If you're going to go fast, you take a marker off. So it's almost like you're charging up your supercharger, right? So you got to have a few rounds where you're charging up, and then boom, you're going to, blast. It's like a capacitor. And every card has two different initiative values. This side is if you're going fast, and this side if you're going slow. And you even have different effects. If you're going slow, this happens. If you're going fast, that happens. And look, the fast gives you +1 damage. You get experience point, and then they're bleeding, they're wounded. Here, you get -1 damage, and they're muddled. So not quite as good at all. So you've got a lot of cards that are going to be like this, where there's a fast and a slow. And of course you have to do both. There's a karma thing going on here. You got to do some slow to build up points on here so you can spend them to go fast. So you can't just go fast the whole game. So really powerful abilities, but you have to pick when you're going to use them. And that's probably why it's considered complex, because the timing is everything. So I'm not as excited about this character as the other ones, but I chose it because it was high complexity and I wanted to try it out. The abilities here are pretty good though. I can see it getting pretty powerful. So this is a melee style type of character. I mean, you can even see that he has, blades and all that stuff. But what I'm thinking is this is a perfect guy for the poison dagger, because it's a little bit of a subterfuge. So we're going to add the poison dagger to him. And then what else? What else do we give him? Well, we can either, this is actually the one time where the boots of speed would actually be interesting, because you can have him go slow and then do this to make him go faster. I don't know, like that just seems like overkill, but it is min-maxing his abilities here with the boots of speed. So it's an interesting thing to try. I'm not a big fan of them. I want things that help me to win. I guess you could say that helps you to win, but I don't think so. So if I get this, I'm going to get something else for 15, so I might as well do that. We'll at least be able to block a hit. Okay, so you go. I spent the 30 bucks, and the next step is we have to, like I said, I have to build the decks, I have to set the dials, and then we have to set up the scenario. That's going to take a while. And so I promised that playthrough would occur in this video, and technically this is playing. You have to set your stuff. There's a lot of analysis, of course. I also wanted to check how did we do compared to their recommended purchase. So let's see. The banner spear, they recommended wing shoes, which I nailed it, and then the shield. So I went with the leather armor instead. I think those are both good choices. The drifter, they recommended the amulet of life and the wing shoes. Interesting. I can see it, but I went with the heater shield and the leather armor. So Bone Shaper, they wanted the warden's robes. That's exactly what we did, actually. Oh, I read the wrong one. I read the Deathwalker. We're not doing that class. So we did the Bone Shaper, and I said warden's robe all the way, and that's exactly what, so I went right with the recommendation there. So okay, this book is redeeming itself again because I'm almost spot on with making the same choices. And then Blink Blade, Leather Armor, and Poison Dagger. And the only thing I really did is this leather armor is swapped with that heater shield. They're just like that. And then Geminate I would love to use, but I can't. All right, so the rules in this game are very similar to Gloomhaven, but not quite the same. My disclaimer is I did play Gloomhaven all the way through to full completion. We unlocked everything. I even did halfway of a second campaign. I loved it that much. And then I got the electronic version on Steam, and that's the version that you saw me do a playthrough. I did not finish, as you guys recall, but I got to the point where I was just steamrolling. And that would count as my third time I was playing a campaign of Gloomhaven. I'm very familiar with this game. Frosthaven, of course, has some changes, and they denoted them in blue text here. So very helpful. So when I get to a section of the rulebook and I start falling asleep or glazing over, they're going to at least point out to me the things I need to pay attention to. But here's the kicker. It's been a long time because the Steam version has spoiled me. I have not had to calculate the AI or do any of those things. Especially the choosing your focus and moving. That can, anybody can do it wrong. And I already know a lot of you are going to be like, you should have moved this guy this way, and you're going to be right. And first of all, I thank you for it. I'm okay with anybody trying to improve the quality of the video for other people. Just be kind about it. That's all I ask. And we're gonna have a good time. That's it. So let me pause this video. I'm going to set up all 4 players, and then we're going to set up the mission, because you basically start off on mission 1. Now, what is the gist of this game? We're going to be fighting, there is some flavor text somewhere. It's in the scenario book. We'll read it whenever I get everything set up. But basically, there's going to be a little bit like a tower defense feel to this, where basically a town got started and they did something, and all the merchants and stuff fled the town, and they're being attacked by these things, and we're being asked to come in and save the town. And of course, one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be building up its defenses. So we're going to construct buildings, and we're going to do things to make the town grow and grow more powerful and defend itself against whatever forces. I love that kind of game. One of the very first video I ever did was The Convicted, which the whole point is you're exiles by the king, and he decided to give you your freedom, but you had to go to this new island and defend it against all these creatures. And so it's your classic, you're building a castle, and you have to survive 20 waves of enemies trying to take you over. So this is great. So I'm going to pause the video. I have a lot to do in between, and then I'll be right back and we can get started with the scenario. Okay. I am realizing I don't have my camera on. 1 second. There, how about that? Yeah. We are back. Setup time for this scenario, and I'm not completely done. It was around 15 minutes. And granted, this was my very first time. The setup that I have over here was phenomenal. It took a minute and a half to get the creatures that I needed. So there's 4 different creatures. And look at that, 1, 2, 3, and then the city guard I had in a special container. But I was able to pull everything out that I needed. Boom, I'm done with the monsters. You're going through quite a big deck of cards, so maybe we could sort them someday. I don't know. But that took, a little bit. The hardest part is the same thing that was the hardest part with Gloomhaven. These stupid little tile tokens. They are always the most difficult thing to find. I would love to separate them and just have each one in its own little baggie or whatever, but there's just so many, and it's very cumbersome. But that took the longest, and let's see what else. Oh, and then let's take care of a few odds and ends. Each character, I went with the level 1 cards. I didn't go with any of the X cards. So we just made it simple and sweet. The other thing is I forgot, we're supposed to draw 2 of these per character. So this will be for the blade. What's his name? The Blink Blade. These 2 are for the Drifter. These 2 are for the Summer Spear or Banner Spear, and then these 2 are for the Bone Shaper. Now what they're going to do is, there's only 2 cards left. What they're going to do is they're going to pick one, and then of course the rest go back in the box. And what these are is, if you've played Gloomhaven, they're career goals. If you haven't played Gloomhaven, they're career goals. But career goals are what it's going to take for the character to retire. Like, why are they in Frosthaven in the first place? So this is the Bone Shaper. So you are a people person. Sure, you've got a job to do, but would it hurt to not make a few friends? So during 8 different outpost phases, read a person's name in an event or section. And then you can see there's some rewards here. I don't know what the alt means. I'll have to look that up. That doesn't sound like a necromancer type of character. And then here, Frosthaven is not as obscure place as it once was. So immediately unlock a strong foundation and follow it to conclusion. That's a scenario. I think we'll go with this one. Let's unlock the scenario. This one just doesn't fit the character. And I want to make sure I'm doing this right, because there's not a lot of these cards, and I don't see the retirement criteria on these. I see some male. Maybe they just changed the way that looks. The outpost phase is completely different from, when you went to the town phase in Gloomhaven. So I didn't bother reading it because the rulebook actually told me don't bother reading it because, that's something you can do later. Okay. We created our character. Yeah, draw 2 cards from the personal quest, keep 1, shuffle the other back. It represents your reason for coming to Frosthaven. Once you've completed it, you'll retire your character. I just need to see the breakdown of what the little male symbol and the alt means. But we'll do that later. I don't need to figure that out now. We're just picking their goal. Okay, so this one's the Banner Spear. So, life lessons. Gain 150 experience from ability cards. Or personally loot 8 total lumber cards through loot tokens to unlock Sacred Soil and then follow it to conclusion. We're going to go ahead and do... we'll do this one. And we'll put life lessons back. This is the Blink. Dangerous game. You're no stranger to killing intelligent prey. That totally sounds like him. So we're going to do this one. I didn't even read the other one. Who cares? This one fits him to a T. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then you can see I got to kill a bunch of stuff. So Alcox cards, Claw Crushers, and Robotic Bolt Shooters. So put that away. And then last but not least is our Drifter. Study of plants, collect 5 different types of herbs and spices. So he's always Colonel Sanders. Or complete the 5 different scenarios that require ship. I don't know what that is. Or that. The scenarios are going to require certain stickers or things. I think this one seems easier. So we're going to go ahead and do the harder one. Although I have no idea how to collect herbs at the moment, but I'm sure there's going to be scenarios that let you do it. Okay, next thing. Uh, the scenario book is awesome. Why is it awesome? And um, this is for you Dungeon Universalis people, especially uh, the uh, the other YouTube channel that decided to try to tell me that Dungeon Universalis can be set up in 10 to 15 minutes, no problem, or even less if you're skilled. They were totally full of it because they actually get sponsored by the designer, but it doesn't matter. The point is, this is how it's supposed to be done. Right here, the map layout, they tell you exactly which tiles you need for the whole scenario. They don't necessarily tell you when they're going to be used, but I have everything I need for this scenario already picked out. Here's the first one, and then the other two are right underneath over there. Those are the other two. How do I know I only need to use the first one? Well, because it tells you right here. This is the only one that you set up right now. This gives you a picture along with a description of every item that you need for the whole scenario, not just here. Now, I guess, because there's priests, but it doesn't tell you how many. So, you got an idea that if it's not on this one, then it's behind the door. Okay, fine. Maybe it's revealing some stuff. Ooh. But the point is, this is fantastic. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it was everything I needed to set this up. And not only did it say rubble, but it showed me a picture of what rubble looks like. Without that picture, I'd have been pulling my hair out. So, this was wonderful. Another thing they do now is they do, like, right up here would be any prerequisites. It's a level 1 difficulty. And another thing they did is there is a scenario 0, which is called Howling in the Snow. Now, if you've never played Gloomhaven ever, and Frosthaven is your first time doing this, then they tell you to do this scenario. But if you had any experience with Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, then they ask you to switch and do this one, Town in Flames. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do Town in Flames. And if you've never played it and you're just watching this video, don't worry, we'll get you through it. We don't need to do Scenario 0, just because some of you may have never played this before. You'll at least get some help. Okay, the only thing I haven't done, I got, like a few things, like I got to set things up on the board, but I wanted to do that with you. And the other thing I haven't done is we got to set up the loot deck. So this is a new concept as well. So basically it's saying these are the loot cards, and so we're going to form a deck. And I can see myself needing to sleeve these pretty soon as well. So we need 6 money cards. And you can see there's a whole bunch of money cards here, but there are different kinds. So of the money cards, you got to shuffle them. So again, that's what I'm getting at. I probably need to sleeve these pretty soon. And so I'm doing a pretty sloppy job of shuffling here. But what we're going to do is we're going to spread these out and just going to grab 6. So here's 1, there's 2, I'm going to grab from the top for 3, the bottom for 4, and then maybe that one for 5, and one in the middle here for 6. Okay, so we grabbed 6 money cards. And so this is forming our loot deck. And we don't know if these are the single coin, the double coin, which, are worth more. It doesn't matter. It's just 6 money cards. Then it says 5 lumber cards. So we got to go in here, and you can see there's different types of, like these are the alchemy stuffs. But eventually we're going to get to lumber. That's hide. There we go. Now, are they all the same? I think they are. No, they're not. Well, it just was. So in a 4-player scenario, you get +1. In a 2 to 3-player scenario, you get +2. So they do reward you with more if you have less characters. Here, a 3 to 4 player is +1. A 2-player. So it's different if you're playing with 2 characters. I'm trying to see. Oh, I see. These ones have variable amounts, and then these ones are straight up +1 lumber. Okay. Well, the thankful thing is that a 4-character game, they're all the same. So there's no difference between them. So we're just going to go ahead and grab, they said 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put that in our deck. Okay, the next one is we need the anvil, which is metal. We have to test our metal. And that's this. Let's make sure once again they're not any different. I don't think they are. Nope. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, just 3. 1, 2, 3 of those. Okay. Then 3 hide. Well, we saw those already. So 1, 2, 3 hide. And then 1 of these and 2 of those. And these are the alchemy things that I don't fully understand, but hopefully they got the picture. Yeah, so it's not that picture. It's not that one. Not that one either. There you go. This matches that. So we need 1 rock root. And then whatever that picture is going to be, it's the snow thistle. So 2 of those. Okay, everything else just goes back in the box. So I think this loot deck concept is awesome. Again, I just like everything he did. And I'm not a YouTuber that gushes over designers. I can tell you that. I just really do. In the past, these things would just be fixed. And now there's a lot of nice randomness, and so you don't know exactly what the loot is going to be. And so when you go into a scenario, you're not necessarily sure what you're going to get. And so, I just did a decent job of shuffling, or maybe good enough for government work, but not good enough for professional. And there we go. 1 more. And another one. So here we go. Alright, so we got our loot deck formed, and I'm just going to set it off to the side here. I don't know exactly where I want my decks to be yet, but I'll figure this out eventually. Alright, so I have our little element section over here, and so this is a town guard deck, by the way. You have to take the first 20 cards and make sure those are shuffled. I don't think we use those for the scenario, but I have them ready just in case. I think these are used for the outpost phase, and then but those are for sure the loot deck that we need for this scenario. I got my 2 characters over here, 2 more over here, and I'm realizing I'm missing stuff. I got Bone Shaper here, has 6 health. Yeah, my characters on the right side here are a little crammed in. A bit more than I'm probably comfortable with. And I'm just getting the dials set up here for... And I'm supposed to name these guys too, which I haven't done a good job of. I haven't done anything of exactly. Alright, so we have the monster deck, which looks like all the other ones. I sort of wish it didn't. I wish they had a different background, but you can easily tell what they are with the M. And I'm just setting them here next to the monsters. They're basically showing... Let me let you take a good look. We're going to be setting this up, so I'll be explaining this as we go. But the first thing is that they showed these 4 symbols here, and that's where we're starting. So I'm going to go ahead and put like our banner person and this guy, and then blink back like that. So we got ourselves our starting spots, and then it says right here is our first enemy. Now the way it works is that enemy, you just got to match up the picture with this over here. So thankfully they are really nice, easy to match. It's the Alcox guard. So 1's going to go here, and so these 3 dashes here are for 2 players, 3 players, or 4. So if it's black, it means there's nobody there. If it's gray, it means it's a normal, and then if it's yellow like this, that means it's elite. So in our case, we're playing a 4-character game. We're going to have all 3 of these characters here. This one is going to be normal, this one's going to be elite, and that one's going to be normal. And then here, in a 4-character game, we're going to have these two as well, but only 4 characters going to see this one. If it was 2 or 3 characters, this guy would be missing. And then that guy's going to be there. The next thing is, they did give me a color coding, and I have already forgotten what it means, but like this is supposed to be a wall if it's black. If it's green, it's like a obstacle. I don't remember the purple. And it's really like it's going to be intuitive once you remember it. And I remember when I was reading it, I was like, "Oh, this is great. This color coding is awesome." But of course, I don't remember it. So here we go. So here's what it means. So you got green, and then yellow, and then black. So if it's green, it's an obstacle. If it's yellow, it's an objective, and if it's black, it's a wall. So how good did I do? That's probably not black. That's more gray. So that's the overlay tile, but then there's colors of everything else. Oh gosh, there we go. Purple is difficult terrain. That's purple. And so, you know, he's trying to use color coding for everything. You know, I'll get the hang of it. It's just, it's not intuitive to me yet. And as you can see, green up there is obstacles. And you can see figures cannot enter a hex with an obstacle, except when flying or jumping. And then, you know, gray is walls, etc., etc. So, I'll keep this handy. But yeah, it's a little tough at first. So this here is an obstacle. So what we do is we're going to take this guy, and you can see it's, you know, should go about right there. Now what I don't understand is, like, do I have to remember it's an obstacle, or can I see that it's an obstacle just because it's there? That part is a little fuzzy to me. And then, you know, the purple, of course, is treacherous terrain. So we got the log that goes here. And then we have a loot token that goes here. So that's a place where you can get to draw a loot card. And you just have to end your turn there or do a loot action as many spaces away as the loot action lets you do. The loot action, of course, has to be on your card, and not every character has that action. Okay, so now we need an Alcock's guard. So we grab our little guard thing, and pull my piece of paper out, and this is what one of those dudes looks like. And he is a normal, non-elite, so bear with me. I got a bag I need to open here. Okay, so what I just did is I just put all these in a tray, and since he's not elite, we're going to grab this, put it on like so, and boom, there he is, blocking our view of our own heroes. And we're going to keep going like this, and I'm not going to go this slow for every scenario. We'll never finish this playthrough. But for this first one, I wanted to at least show like how it goes. So then we look here, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3 of this type, which is the, nope, we're going to have one priest here, and then these two are archers. And so I'm gonna grab the archer one, and you can see here we got oh, you have to make sure you grab this. So we're gonna grab that, and then we got 2 archers. And also you have to grab the combat deck, because this is going to dictate how we control the monsters. So let me put that down there, and then yeah, for now that's all we need from this, so we can put the rest away. And I'm going to keep grabbing, go back to the guards, because we got to do the same thing here. We got to get out the guard deck, and then there's the initiative, and then we have the priest. Same deal. We get one of those out. We have Algox priest. And we got to get the cards out. Like so. Alright, so that was very simple, very fast. Let me just get these off our sheet. Okay, so this guy was elite. So we're going to put elite on him. And then these two are not. So we got 1 and 2. Then if we move the camera up, these two are here, and this guy is there, like so. Alright, and then let's not forget we also have a town guard that's also non-elite, it's normal. And that one went here. As far as terrain goes, I think that covers it. And I know you're getting a little bit of a glare. We got to put one thing here, and what that is, that's one of these. They call it a snow door. So basically you got to go there and open the door, and you can see that it's going to go over 2 tiles. So I'm going to move this a little bit over, and you can clearly see that there's going to be a room connecting to this one. So I'm going to move this as far over as we can, because it's going to go this way. And I don't want to run out of table space. I probably will. But yeah, that's the setup. And the other 2 tiles are there. I know we're going to use them. I just don't know where. I have a very strong feeling one of them is going to be here. And so this will just go like so. And then once we get the other one, we can plug it in and keep going. But obviously it doesn't say. Okay, what's our scenario goal here? The scenario is complete when all enemies in it are dead. At the end of the round, read 9.1. Now, this is a scenario book. They also give us what's called a, I'm going to put this upside down so that I don't bump the camera, a section book. And the section book is like a choose your own adventure lookup thing. Like, so when it says read 9.1 with that symbol, that's telling you to go to the section book and read 9.1 from the section book. So it's almost as thick or even thicker than the scenario book. So a lot of the flavor text and stuff got moved over, although you could see the introduction and stuff is still here. Okay, let's keep going. Obviously, I like to have this in front of me, and I tried to make it so it can sit underneath the camera. And then everything on my table is in front, because my camera uses a tripod, and I want to be able to set it down. So most of this stuff is not too far in front of us. I haven't figured out exactly how I want to situate the monsters yet, but we'll do this for now. The archers, everything gets shuffled. I haven't shuffled any of this yet. Everything gets shuffled and goes here like so. And then you have the priests also shuffled and placed. And the guard, I am pretty sure, controls the enemy guard and our guards. So, because we have city guards, and those are both guards, and so this guard deck is for both. So I put them next to each other over here. Now, one thing I forgot to do, which is, it's not new to me, it's just I forgot to do it, is we have these sleeves. So you use this sleeve if there's only 6 enemies. And then there's other sleeves you can use if there's up to 10. Well, right now there's only 1, and I don't know if I have up to 10 on any of these. So, for example, the priest, I'm going to go ahead and slide this in, like so. And so, make sure it's level 1, because that matches our scenario. And the rule is you take the level of all the characters, and you divide it by the number of characters. So in this case it's 4 divided by 1, or yeah, well, it's actually I'm sorry, you add up the levels of all the characters, 1 plus 1 plus, so you get 4, and then you divide it by the number of characters. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then you cut it in half or something like that, and then round up. So it's level 1. So your picture is going to be in here. It's not always going to be oriented properly depending on how this thing rotates, but the level 1 is just this. Everything else on the card is meant for other levels. So this gets rid of all the busyness and focuses you on exactly what you need. And then this, if there's multiple creatures, they have numbers on them. So, for example, this guy has a number 1 on him. So when we do damage to him or anything, or he has any effects, we would put the damage tokens here for number 1, and so forth. So we're going to do this with all the guys, and I'm going to go ahead and just... So we got the city guard. Alright, so city guard sleeved up. And then they have other sleeves that go up to 10. And that's these ones. So the only reason I use these least is just because, you know, it's less. There's less space for you to put markers. But you obviously have to use them if it's going to be a creature that has a lot of standees. And I don't know which of these actually can go up to 10. But I don't have any more that's less than 10. And I'm having a bear of a time getting this to go in the sleeve. Holy cow. That is brutal. What's going on? There we go. Alright, so it's finally in and ready. And then we have the next one. So if I squeeze like this, I think that helps. It sure does. Alright, then there's our city guard. These are actually our allies, so we don't want them to die. Okay, so I'm an hour and 7 in, and you may be like, technically, Jeff, you haven't done any playthrough yet, and you promised us playthrough, you punk. Alright, well, let's do it. Let's do some playthrough here. Let's start with the introduction and get going. The sound greets you first. Muffled metallic pangs, a voice howling. It's difficult to make anything out with the wind rushing past your ears, but you know that tune anywhere. There's a fight up ahead. But a fight means people, and if there are people, the town must be close. You hear more, a scream, the clash of steel against stone, a deep earthy growl. You're running now. Your legs are wasted from the hike. Your shoulders ache from your gear, but the sounds are close now, and up ahead you see a gauzy orange light blooming in the air. With one last push, you round the final bend in the trail, and you see it, Frosthaven, engulfed in flame. Great petals of fire burst from the windows and crawl over roofs. People stream from the town's ruined gate, their faces bent in panic. A moment later, you see the object of their terror, a massive creature with 2 legs and 2 hulking arms covered entirely in thick white fur, 3 gnarled horns crowning its head. Algox raiders, we're doomed, cries an elderly porter beside you. They're stronger than anything else alive. We've come all this way for nothing, as if to prove the point. The Algox you've been watching catches a fleeing outposter with one hand and hurls him backward as if he weighed nothing. 10 days you've been hiking, 10 days, and this is what you find. You breathe out a thick plume of foggy air and hoist your weapon high. Time to get to work. Okay, and then here you can see when door number 1 is open, read 5.3. That's that section book thing we were talking about. And this is door number 1. Okay, and that's going to be what gives us the flavor text and whatever we need to know what to do next. Special rules. All city guards are allies to you and enemies to all monster types. City guards do not perform turns and instead gain an initial innate 1 shield for a total of 2 at level 1. And they have retaliate 2 and have an initiative of 50 for the purpose of focusing. Okay, so the retaliate 2 is the important thing. So that means when they get hit, they punch back. But we don't actually do them in a turn. So that's fine. We can handle that. And off we go. Alright, there's a lot to this game. The symbology is going to be overwhelming if it's your first time. We'll try to go through it as we can. I sometimes have to remind myself they have a card here that has most of the symbology, and that's how I knew it was retaliate. See the little fist? That's retaliate, and it was retaliate 2. So the attackers will suffer 2 damage. That's what the retaliate 2 means. Okay, so with that being said, it's time to rock and roll. And unless it says otherwise, we go first. Well, no, we don't go first. We have to play our cards, and then the initiative determines who's going first. So without any, let me just give you a view. Let's start with our Bone Shaper and decide what they want to do first. And this can take forever. Look at all the cards we have to choose from. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just summon some skeletons. And so it's a single skeleton. It'll have 3 life points. It moves 2 spaces, does 2 damage, but it also causes me to take 2 damage. So, because you're a necromancer, you're going to have to spill your own blood to get these things to come to life. There's a Returned Servant, and then Shambling Skeleton. They all have different names, but they all summon skeletons. So I want to do one of those, I'm thinking. So I'm going to stand back. And then there's also a Wraith I can summon too, which is pretty cool. But that's a... Now, what these do is these stay active infinitely until, of course, the skeleton dies. And then it goes into the discard pile. Whereas you see this one stays active infinitely, but when this one dies, it goes into what's called the lost pile. Lost is like a burn card. It's gone, and you're never going to get it back. The discard pile, when you rest, you're going to be able to get your discards back. That's the difference. And so the difference here is the X versus the no X. Okay. So this is a summon once, and then that's it. He's gone. And like I said, there's so many cards for me to look at. I may be making a poor choice, but I'm going to do a skeleton. But then the question becomes, which of these bottoms am I going to use or not use? And this one here is an interesting one. I can curse, and then that little bullseye is a target. So I'm going to curse 2 targets. The range is 2. And so I can curse 2 targets 2 away. Well, if you look at where I'm at here, I'm 1, 2, 3 away from this. It's a great card. I love that action, but I'm not close enough for this to work. So this one says, on the next 3 sources of damage to you, I get to negate it. But then the card gets burned. So be careful with burn cards. You don't want burn cards to be played the first round of Gloomhaven or Frosthaven, because when you run out of cards to play, a burn card, by the way, like I said, when you rest, you don't get it back. You only get the discards back. And then every time you rest, you're going to burn a card. So another card gets burned. And as you can guess, you're going to eventually run out of cards. Like there'll be none left that you can play. And when that happens, you're KO'd. And if all 4 characters get KO'd, you lose the mission. So if you're burning cards the very first round of the game, then that's less cards for you to bring back whenever you rest. You want to keep as many cards in your deck as possible, so that way, because you're going to play 2 cards per turn, right? And then you're going to have to rest in order to get your cards back. Well, if you're burning your cards, like let's say you burn 3 of them, and now you rest, well, you have to burn a 4th one because you rested, and now you're going to be playing the rest of the game with 4 less cards. And so it's going to make it so you're going to eventually run out of turns. Okay, with that being said, I do want to do a skeleton summon, and I'm going to choose the card that has the bottom piece that burns the card, because we're not going to do the bottom piece, we're going to do the top piece. So these other ones that have skeletons have good bottom pieces that don't burn the card. So I'm going to do this one for the top, and This one, your summons are immune to retaliation. This one gives me a move. On the death of one of your summons due to damage from an attack, the attacker suffers. So basically, you're given when your summons 2 retaliation. Just a one-time deal. It's interesting. This one heals yourself, and if the enemy has died this round, you get another heal. I'm actually going to choose that. Actually, this one's not a bad one either. I get to move 2, and my summon moves 2. Yeah, we'll do the move one, because we're going to have to move closer and get our summon to move closer. No, I don't want to do that yet. I'm sorry. I'm being wishy-washy, but this is a hard game. This grants one of your summons a loot action, which is pretty cool. So I'm going back to liking this one. I'm going to heal, because in order to summon this guy, I'm going to take 2 damage. So this will heal me, and as long as somebody else died this round, I get to heal another one. So these are the 2 cards I'm going to play, and you can see here there is a... I can choose to have initiative of 30 or 91. It's my choice. I don't have to choose right at this moment, but I do have to choose when I reveal the cards. Do we want to go early or do we want to go late? And my answer is I want to go late. Because there's no... When I summon this guy, he doesn't get to attack the same turn I summon him. And I need to look that up because those rules keep ebbing and flowing, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I'm going to lay these 2 cards on top of my board, like so. So I know that those are the cards I'm playing, and then the rest of my cards are just going to lay down here. This is your discard pile, and then over here, which I'm going to put this on top of my board as well, this is your lost pile. Alright, and again, it doesn't always take this long to do a turn, but it's my first time ever. And I'm going to pause real quick. I want to look up how the summons work. Yep, and look at this, in bold black letters. Summons never take a turn during the round in which they are summoned. Perfect. And then this is another lesson for Dungeon Universalis people. Look at this index. This is a properly done index. I'm looking up the word summon, and I find it right up here. And look at this. Summon is mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, right? So Dungeon Universalis did the same thing. They would list every single time it was mentioned. However, they put in bold the one where they specifically talk about summoning, which is exactly what I was looking for. So I went to 31 first, and I ignored all these other ones, and I got exactly my answer. It took me no more than 10 seconds. That's how indexes are done, folks. And I don't even know why I have to explain it to people. I mean, it's as if nobody else has ever used an index in their life. But that's how they're done. You're supposed to do it that way, especially when they have multiple entries. Okay, so moving on to the banner spear. So same dilemma, right? We got to do a top and a bottom, and this is what has me nervous. Like, so this one here, the enemy has to be here, somebody has to be on the other side of the enemy, and then you have to be there. Holy cow, is this going to be... this is stressing me out. Now, we do have... You can see on the bottom, you can summon reinforcement. And then you control the movements of this summon, which is awesome. So, this will allow me to set up those scenarios we were talking about. And he only has 1 single life point, so he's pretty squishy. And then here's those banners we were talking about. So the banner does have health. It doesn't move. All allies within 2 range add +1 to their attack each turn. So this goes on and on and on until this thing dies or we're no longer near it. But you see that burns the card. So I got to be careful with the banners. And allies means summons. So all those skeletons I'm summoning gets this bonus too. it can be pretty deadly. Here, all your range attacks have -1, um, but you get an extra shield. This one's just straight up do some damage. That one is a range of 3, so this is a nice range attack. You don't get too many of those. Oh, what's his weapons? We got the wing shoes and the leather armor. We're not ready for that yet. This is the more simple one. It's so bizarre because, yeah, I guess I could move. I have to summon one first. And this is the only reinforcement card I can summon at the moment. I have that and I have a banner. So let's get a reinforcement on the board. So we're going to do this dude. And then on the top, yeah, I'm going to throw the javelin because I don't have much else to do. So we're going to throw the javelin and then we're going to reinforce. What is that symbol? Why don't I recognize that? I'll figure that out. Okay, so, and then the javelin, we're going to use the lower initiative. Go as early as possible. Actually, I'm going to use the higher initiative. We're going to go as late as possible. Nope. Nope. You get disadvantage if they run up to you. So we're going to do the other way. Alright. So that symbol is pull. You're going to pull a character 2 spaces towards you. Any character that's 3 spaces away. You can pull them 2 spaces towards. So if there was a trap or something, you can pull them over the trap. That's what that is. Alright. We got 2 more characters. We have the Drifter. Now the Drifter, as you can see, has a whole bunch of these where you put it into play and then there's a ticker. And then it burns. And I'm guessing a lot of these are going to burn. Because this guy has the ability, depending on which one you play, like move the character token on 2 of your persistent abilities backwards 1 slot. So you want to keep moving them backwards so they don't burn. And you want these cards, you want to get these cards out there and working for you, but at the same time you don't want them to be burned. It's going to be a precarious balance for sure. This one's a really fascinating one. I sort of like it for the start. On your next 6 move abilities, add +2. On your next 6 melee attacks, add +2. This is great. Next 6, all your range attacks have +1 range. On your next 6 range attacks, add +1 damage. On your next 6 heals, add +2. The next 6 attacks targeting you by enemies within range 2 gain a retaliate 2. Next 6 sources of damage from attacks targeting you gain shield 1. But you have a lot of cool stuff, that's for sure. Well, do I really want to get one of these going? It's actually hard to know, like, what do I want my opening move to be with this one. Like, I really like this, but I have to move 1 step closer. And it's like, what's my bottom action going to be? That's the bigger issue. I think I'm going to... I guess I can play one of these just for a generic action. I don't need to be healed yet, so I'll do this one. And we'll go ahead and we're going to take early initiative. Alright. Yeah, it takes a while. I'm sure that's why some of you don't do 4 characters. But you're missing out. Like, why buy the game if you're not going to just play it? Alright, so we're going to put a token out here because we are going to start off slow. Or do we start with a token on here? Let's make sure we understand how this guy works. At the start of each round, we have to choose fast or slow. If fast is declared, remove 1. If slow is declared, add 1 to the left up to a maximum of 2. Slow can still be declared even if it would not add any more. Start each scenario with 1 on the track. There we go. While only up to 2 can be accumulated from declaring slow, up to 5 can be accumulated through abilities. Alright, so we already have one, and I think I'm going to choose to add another. We're going to go slow again. I don't see any reason right now to go bonkers. Although, if I could find something that lets me move a bunch of spaces, it'd be nice to take out these archers. But I think for now, I am going to go slow, because I don't think I have anything that does something like that. Now, these ones are crazy. So this is what happens if it's fast, that's what happens if it's slow. So, yeah, this one, you get -1 to all your attacks. What I want to do, excuse me, is I want to eventually get those archers. The archers are the problem. That guard guy that's up near us, he's strong and all that stuff, but the archers are the one that pick you apart. Gain a shield while slow. Add, basically, jump to all your move abilities while fast. And then if you do the bottom here, this only happens if you're fast. I do like this one where we gain a shield while slow. And then I just want something that moves me, like this one moves me 4 spaces. However, if I go slow, it's -1, so I only go 3 spaces. And then for -1 token, I can push somebody 3 spaces. I target everybody within a space of me. This is a weird one. When you play this, your card gets burned, the bottom piece. Same here. This is regenerate, which is really cool. Alright, I don't have anything. Well, I do have a big move, but I have to go fast. Moving 3 is still decent. This one moves 2. One adjacent enemy suffers 1 damage. I like that one. We'll do blurry job. Alright, so I will use the 50. Remember, because we're going slow, we got to use the right number. We'll use the 50. And there we have it. We got our cards ready. I'm not going to clear. Clearly, I'm not going to finish this scenario with this first video, but we're at least going to get some of the play going. And we'll get through a round here. So the other thing is the rulebook itself also tells you what to do when you're doing a scenario. Oh, and I actually skipped a few things. So we had to select battle goals. So let's make sure we do that real quick. And then, yep, we got everything else. We just have to set the battle goals. So the battle goals are these cards. So again, shuffle, shuffle. I might end up sleeving these as well. I'm still using FFG sleeves. I don't know how long it's been since they've stopped making sleeves, but like I have a whole bunch of FFG sleeves that I'm still using. I just ordered last night my first set of Gamegenic sleeves, which are this size, because these are the ones I'm running out of for the FFG. And I can get a bunch, but I'd have to go like into my Descent game and start stealing from those decks and unsleeving them, and which I could do. There's nothing stopping me from doing that other than time, energy, stuff like that. All right, these are not very fun to shuffle, that's for sure. Okay, these are they they catch whenever you're trying to side shuffle, and then of course I don't want to do the you know thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I did before. I'm just going to randomly. Every character gets 3. So this is the blink. 1, 2, and then we'll draw from the top for 3. Okay, so for a blink, never short rest, and see these little check marks? This is for getting perks. Remember I said perks are really important in this game. Every time you get a check mark, you get to check one of these boxes. Once you check all 3 boxes, you gain a perk. You also get a perk every time you level up. So even if you don't do this, you're always going to get perks when you level up. But this is a way to get additional perks. Okay, so now that you got that out of the way, this one is never short rest. Kill 1 or more enemies of each monster type that appears in the scenario. So that would mean I need to kill the guard, the priest, and the archer. This is of each type. This is hard. So that's probably why they give you 2 checks. And then gain 7 or fewer experience before any bonus scenario. So this is an interesting one. The experience point thing is right here. That card gives you an experience point if you play it. So what it's saying is you need to gain 7 or less using your cards. And if you look here, I don't think our cards give us experience points. This one gives 2 if I do that. So if I can get 7 or less, I'll get 2 check marks. I think I can pull that off with this guy. Although the never short rest one is super easy to do. We're going to go ahead and try to do this one. But that's the tricky part with this, is these are the kind of things I forget. Okay, so then they get shuffled back in. Next guy gets 3. This one's going to be the drifter. And again, I'm going to grab from the top, 1 from the middle, and 1 near the end. Okay, so the drifter gained 13 or more experience. That's also hard, because you need to have a lot of, although this gives 1, 2, 3 experience if I used it. So, but 13 is an awful lot. I'm not ready to do that without being familiar with the characters. Killing 5 or more is also not easy, even though it's only 1. Lose a card to negate suffering 5 or more damage. I could probably do that. So basically, what this means is somebody attacks me, and I'm going to take 5 or more damage. I would lose a card to negate it. Ugh, I don't like it, but I'll do it. I think that's the easiest of them. And I'm not going to shuffle these in because I don't think that was supposed to happen. Alright, then the banner. Here we go. The banner, never use a potion. We don't have a potion. Have 5 or more total cards in your hand at the end. If I'm good, I can do this. Kill an enemy not adjacent to you while you are adjacent to another enemy. It's too complicated. We don't have any potions, so perfect. Or that's a guaranteed check mark, as long as I don't die. And then, last but not least, kill 3 or fewer enemies. This is the shadow dude. Become exhausted before any other character. Collect fewer loot tokens than any other character. Yeah, I can do that one. I don't know what it says happens if there's a tie. I mean, technically, if you tie, it's not fewer, I guess. That could be a problem. I don't know. But we'll try it. Okay, so I'm glad I pulled this up as an example for you because I ended up missing one. All right. So we played all of our cards. Now it's time for them. So we draw the top card of every one of these, like so. And then you look at the initiative, and that's determining their initiative. So you got 50 is the lowest of theirs. And then in our case, we're at 91. So the guard, for example, is at 50. The city guard doesn't go. It's a special scenario there. The archer is 64, and then this is 74. So the bone shaper was a 91. The banner spear is a 21. The drifter is a 27, and then we're a 50. So we tied the guard. And in Gloomhaven, if you tied the guard, the player always went first. I'm assuming that's still the case here. I'm going to pause and make sure that nothing changed. And I was spot on. So we win the tie. So this is the order that everybody takes their turn. So Banner Spear goes first. So what we do is we're going to grab our 2 cards. And now and only now must I commit to top and bottom. But I'm still going to stick with my plan. We're going to do this top and this bottom. And we could do it in any order. Let's do the bottom one first. So we're going to summon a reinforcement. And so it's this dude. And so I'm going to grab his little punch board here. And you can see it's this guy right here. And then we just have to get a... So our allies are going to be blue, because they're not normal or elite, they're just blue. Alright, so we use a blue base, and, excuse me, he is going to have 1 hit point, and he does 2 movement. And what we're going to do is this card's going to just sit, you know, we could put it in front of us here, or over here, however we want to do it. I'm going to just sit it here in front of us so we can see it easier. And he has to summon next to where I'm located. So I'm going to move this out of the way. The issue is this guy is here. So I'm going to turn him sideways. I don't want to put it here because it's going to block him from being able to move. You can move through other people, allies. I guess it doesn't block him. But I'm going to put him here so he's not too awful. He's not blocking too many things. Alright. With him having only 1 hit point, he's going to be very, very squishy. But it is what it is, and that's the ally. Alright, and then the other card, and the reason I wanted to go first is because the other card is... oh, and then see this? We gain an experience point for that. So, I've been very negligent about writing on our player sheet, but technically speaking, I'm supposed to give us an experience point. And what I tend to do is I have these poker chips that I use instead. So that's a 1 experience point for the Banner Spear. And we already have hit point counters, so we don't have to... I used to use poker chips to track their hit points too, but I'm just going to use poker chips for their experience points. Okay, so we got an experience point there. And this is a range 3 attack that does 3 damage, and then it's going to put wind on the board. Now, the wind thing doesn't happen until the end of the turn, but I will put it on now. And all it means is that the wind goes to strong. And basically, after I finish my turn, any other character that goes after this can use wind as part of their abilities. It's more helpful when you have spellcasters, which we're a pretty melee-heavy group here. But the range attack is good for 3 damage. And then, of course, this is going to go in the discard pile, which is here. So I'm going to have to move this out of the way. So that's the discard pile, which don't confuse that with your draw pile. Yeah, yes, it could get confusing. I totally understand. And then what we do is we take the combat deck for that character, and of course we got to shuffle a lot, because I don't think any of these have been shuffled at all. And when they're sleeved, they shuffle so nicely. It's just like butter compared to the non-shuffled version, or non-sleeved I meant to say. I'm getting tired. It's rather late here. Okay, here we go. So, we're going to attack. We draw 1 card. Let's see what it says. -1. So that means the attack did 3 damage, but we're going to add a -1 to it, so we only do 2 damage. And then the way the combat deck works is, and as you can see, I forgot to grab the bottom card here. And look at that. That was the doubler. I'm going to reshuffle. Because that wasn't in my shuffle, and I want the doubler. We'll go ahead and reshuffle here. Alright. Coming back. Coming back. Let's do a few more. Yeah. Alright. Now we draw 1. And this time we get a -2. That's what I get for being greedy. Okay. So we got a -2. And then that's going to get... It goes into like a temporary discard. And so we only did 1 damage now. And so this guy is, of course, the guard, and he has the number 2 on him, see? So we grab a damage token, which is one of these, and then we find the Algox guard, and number 2, we put 1 damage on him in the number 2 spot. Now, when you're reading these, a normal Algox guard has 7 health, so he needs 6 more damage before we kill him. Alright, so it's that simple. And yeah, so we did all that for 1 stinking damage. Okay, next up. He went. Next is the Drifter's turn. So we grab the Drifter. And I wanted to use this for a generic move. And then do this to the guy. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to move the full 2 spaces though. So I could just move 1 space and attack him, but I'm going to move both spaces because I want to eventually go after these archers. Because he's not my priority, it's the archers. But at least get closer to the archers, and then I'm still in melee range to attack him. So the move part is done, of course. Not much to say there. And then I'm going to do 2 damage attack that will poison him, and then a 2 damage attack that will make him wounded. It's a really nice card. I do like it. So let's grab his combat deck. Again, shuffle, shuffle. This time I didn't leave the -2 behind, or ×2. And hopefully this time I won't draw the -2, which is what I was thinking. And here we go. So this is the first attack. I do +1 damage. So I do 3 damage to him. And there is a 3 damage marker. Looks like this. So we're going to zoom in a little bit here. And now he has 4 total damage. And he's poisoned. Now what's poison? Poison, let me think about poison. I think that's at the... I know that poison prevents you from gaining any health when you're healed, but I'm pretty sure you're going to take a damage, I think it's at the end of your turn, is what poison does. Because the other one is damage at the beginning of your turn. Ay, 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 why don't I remember what poison does? This isn't even changed from Gloomhaven. That's how pathetic I'm being here. 1 second. I'm so silly. That's what the card is for. Poison. All attackers. So everybody else who attacks gains +1, not you. But here's the deal. This is what makes this card even beautiful. Okay, he's poisoned after this attack. So by the time I get to this attack, I get a +1. So that's now a 3. That's awesome. It's totally awesome. I love this particular card. Oh, and you know what? I just realized I don't need poker chips. I don't know what I was smoking. You do not need poker chips to track your experience points. Right here. That's what the blue is. So I gained 1 experience point. I am tired. That's for sure. Here we go. I got another +1. So, this is... I think he's dead, to be honest. So this 2 gets a +1 because he's poisoned, so it's 3, and then I get a +1 from the card. That's 4 damage. 4 damage plus 4 damage is 8. And yes, he is dead. Okay, so Algok's guard is down. And that means that this is not going to ever trigger. And so we can... He's done, and then this is out. Next up is the Blink Blade. And the Blink Blade may not ever get to do anything, actually, because the guy's dead. So I wanted to do a move, which is, since I'm going slow, is only going to be 2. And then this, I gain a shield while I'm going slow. That's all it does. But actually, what stinks is this is a card that burns. So it gives me 2 experience points and then it burns. I think I took the thing that says I want 7 or less. So I'm going to just use the top action for 2 attack. And it's basically a waste. I'm going to move 2 spaces and do nothing. So I come back here. This guy's going to move 2 spaces and then do nothing. There's nothing to attack. Alright, so Blink Blade is done. Next up is the Archers. So I didn't even pay attention to what they're doing. But this symbol means you're going to reshuffle the deck. So the Archers are going to attack at a range of 5 with +1 damage. And we are in great shape because this is a wall. This guy has no ability to draw a line of sight to him. So this guy doesn't do anything. This one, and by the way, they have movement points of 2, but they don't move unless the card says they move. It's just that when it says that they would move at that rate. Now this one's trickier. If you trace from here, you could argue that he can see our ally in the back there. But he shoots 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, that is going to hit him. And so, I don't know, so yeah, I can draw a straight line that does not hit any wall or obstacle. And it's from anywhere in his hex to anywhere in that one. Yeah, so I guess you could argue he's going to shoot our ally. That's the only one he can see. And that's unfortunate, because I just spent all this time trying to get this thing in place. But I already said I think that the banner is going to be difficult to play. And I'm still in agreement on that. Okay, so the monsters... so he gets a +1 to his attack, as you can see here. His attack is a 3. So that means he's going to do 4 damage, and he only needs to do 1 damage to kill our ally. And this is why I said that archers are the bane. We gotta get these archers done, because they just sit back and just tear you apart. Alright, so we shuffled. Shuffle some more. Getting everything in order. And we draw. Okay, so they got a -1. Doesn't matter. 4 damage is just as effective as 5 in this case. So, yeah, our guy didn't last very long at all. But this is not a burn card. I can summon him again later. So yeah, he only has 1 health. So the card's gone. And the guy is gone. And there you go. The archer did its thing. Next up is the priest. Alright, so the priest is... This is a situation where they will move. See? But they're going to move at -1 their movement. And the priest is elite. So this is the elite side. This is the normal side. He's going to move 3 -1, 2 movement. And then after he's finished moving, he will attack at a range 3 +1, and you can see that's a 3 attack, and this here means that he has pierce, meaning he ignores shields at 2 levels. And of course he has 2 shields, so this priest is going to be a real beast to get down. So he's going to move 2 spaces, and then he's going to shoot 3 range at his enemy. Now they have to find their target or their focus. And the focus is not always who's the shortest. The focus is who is the shortest to move to. So there's a log here that he can't go over. I'm pretty sure he can't go over that log. That log is purple. So let me look up purple again. Oh, I need to bookmark this thing. Okay, so purple is difficult terrain. It requires 2 movement points to enter difficult terrain. So he could go on the log. And the log does not block line of sight or shooting. But the priest does not have a range... Well, yeah, it actually has a range attack because of his skill card. A range of 3. So... this is 2, 3 moving away. That's 2, 3 moving away. They're both the same. So I think he would go his 2 movement points. Well, actually, he doesn't have to move at all. He can hit both of these guys. So which one is he going to go after? Well, first of all, it's whoever's the closest from a movement perspective. Well, they're both the same there. Then it's whichever one's the closest. They're both just as close. Then after that, there is a tiebreaker, which I already forgot. Their focus rules are weird. So the focus so it wants to do its attack using the fewest movement points. If the shortest path has multiple enemies, it focuses on the one who's closest by range. If those are equally close, it focuses on the one who acts earlier in the initiative. That's the thing I was forgetting. So between the two, the Drifter goes before the Blink Blade. So the Drifter is the one that's going to get the attack. Okay? So the Priest card is an attack with a +1. And so the attack is 3 damage and it pierces 2 shields. So that's going to be a 4 damage attack. And then here's the modifier. gets a +1. So it's going to do 5 damage to the drifter. Now what's interesting is we took a card that says lose a card to negate suffering 5 or more damage. This is really early to be doing this, but we can satisfy our quest right now by doing that. So I just need to figure out which one I'm going to lose. I'll lose Violent Inheritance. So this card is on the lost pile. Now, like, what I like to do is I like to turn them over so I don't confuse which ones I can reshuffle versus which ones are gone. So that's gone. There are certain abilities that could let you pull those back, but they're very specific abilities, and I don't think he has any. Now, I could have, and I should have, nope. When you're attacked, the attacker gains disadvantage. So we do have to do that, and then we could have used our shield to block. But yeah, let's make sure. So here's how disadvantage works. He's going to draw 2. This is the first one. This is the second one, and he's going to do whichever one is the worst. So the worst is the +0. So that means he's only going to do 4 damage, which means I can't cancel the hit. I can cancel it, but I'm not going to gain credit for my quest. So I'm going to go ahead and just take 4 damage. I'm going to go down to 6. Alright, so that brings us to the Bone Shaper. Last one to go. So we're going to summon the skeleton. That will give us a experience point, and I have to take 2 damage. So I come over here. He only has 6 health. So I'm going to drop him to 4, and we're going to give him 1 experience point. And I keep saying him, it's a her. So that card gets discarded. Oh, and then we get a skeleton. So I have to punch that off the board. And I love the fact that they gave us the blue standees. The blue is brilliant. Again, it's just another thing I love about this game. There we go. And so it's going to have 3 health. It moves 2, and it does 2 damage. And then here, we're going to heal ourselves. And yes, an enemy did die this round. So we're going to heal ourselves twice. So that 2 damage we took, we're going to get right back. So we're back up to 6. Alright, that brings us to the end of the round. We're now going to have to go through this again. But like I said, I was yawning and making word mistakes. I got to cull it. And also this video is at 2 hours. I promised playthrough in this video. I know you had to go like a whole hour before you saw a real playthrough. But there you have it. We'll finish this up and continue this scenario when we get back. How well am I doing? I have no idea. I already lost my ally on the one case. I've already taken damage. That's pretty normal. I think the big thing is that I know there's 2 other tiles that we have to go through, and we're not even through this tile yet. So, and then I just realized another cardinal mistake. So let me fix that right now before I end this video. I am going to give back the health to the drifter. The drifter, by the way, has how much health? 10. The drifter did not get hit by the priest. And some of you are probably shouting at the screen, there's a town guard here who gets hit by the priest. And the town guard is shorter distance. It satisfies all the focal requirements. And that means that the priest did not draw the 0 either. There's no disadvantage for the priest. So it's going to do 5 damage to the town guard. The town guard has an extra shield, as you know, but the priest has a pierce of 2, so he ignores the shields and he kills the town guard. Like, town guard only has 5 health. So this town guard died in 1 hit. That's awful. It does have a retaliate 2, but it only does that if it survives the attack. So yeah, the priest just killed that town guard. And I hope there's no rule that says we lose if just because the town guard got killed. that would be awful. I don't think that's the case here. But yeah, town guard's dead. They do not perform turns, but instead gain an extra shield. But the Pierce 2 just blasts right through it. And it has a initiative of 50 for the purpose of focusing. So what that means is that the town guard would have possibly moved, and all it would have done at 50 is it would have moved closer to the priest, because that's where its focus would have been. So it would have been, oh, you know what? Actually, that changes things. The town guard would have gone at 50. It would have moved 1 closer. It doesn't attack. Then the priest, when it takes its turn, it would move 1 away because it wants to avoid disadvantage, and then it would have killed him. So it still kills him, but it would have moved 1 away, so it's down here. That's all. I'm sure there might be some debate over, some other things, but I'm pretty sure that even though I didn't catch it initially, that seems like it's a pretty good summary of where things should be. So, anyways, feel free to give me some feedback if you think that someone so-and-so should have moved here. For this particular game, you're going to have to use timestamps, because if you're just talking, hey, that skeleton should have gone, I am not going to be able to follow you. Please give timestamps, and then I will try to check, and because, if there's something that you're trying to teach me, I'll try to learn from it as well. Managing the AI is always a tricky beast, and even when I think I got it right, there could be maybe something that was more ideal. So in this case, I think he would have moved here, because since this is difficult terrain, this used less movement points. So, and then also, I remember we used to play where they moved the maximum possible that was still within range, but that's not the case here. And the case here is they only move until they no longer have disadvantage, and then they stop moving. So, anyways, thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome. Frosthaven, I'm feeling it. It's fun. It's a little overwhelming. I can understand why a new person, this is way too much. But, once you get the hang of it, especially once you learn the characters, I've never found it to be as bad. But I do confess, I like this better as a Steam game than I do a board game. I mean, having all the pieces here and filling them is great, but I'd still rather be playing this on Steam. But with that said, so far, I'm having a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed this game. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome.